In the golf world and in the world of sports, there are many inspirational stories of professional athletes defeating the odds to overcome and become world-class figures. But in the amateur world of sports, there's also really beautiful figures that shine not only because of their beauty, natural beauty, but also because of their talent, their determination, and their passion for the sport. Right here we have Alejandra, also known as the Golf Mommy, former amateur golfer, but she is now on her journey to breaking 70, which is a feat that most amateur golfers will never understand, will never even attempt. Welcome, Mommy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, thank you.
So, Mommy, tell us a little bit more about your life. How does a little girl from Mexico, who used to be really poor, end up in the golf course? It just seems almost impossible.
It would have seemed impossible back then. Never would I have thought that this would be my life. This is, to me, something that other people dream of, especially growing up really poor, struggling a lot. I immigrated to the US when I was 3 years old from Oaxaca, Mexico. My parents brought us here. I had to learn how to speak English. I lived in Compton when I was a child. We would threaten with our lives almost daily. We had to move out of our house because of that reason. I remember my dad coming home one day and just dripping in blood, that he had been assaulted. I had a great upbringing because I had great parents, but a difficult upbringing because of our means. For me to be playing in such beautiful places and be able to be a member at a beautiful country club has been just amazing and such a great experience. To be someone coming from Compton, it just seems like impossible, but it's not.
I love that. I am sure that all the hardships that you had to go through in your childhood taught you the skills necessary to become the amazing golfer you are today. But before we even go there, tell us a little bit more about the things you used to love as a kid. I hear you have a great mariachi voice, and we would love to hear it here today.
Well, you will not be hearing that, but I do love mariachi. I do love singing. I used to go to church. My parents, my brothers and I, we had basically our own band. It's something that I really love, so mariachi is definitely in my blood.
So when did you trade the maracas for the golf clubs? How did this transition happen for you? It seems like so different, two different worlds, completely different, completely opposite, but here you are.
It's a very different world. I did not know anything about golf because I was raised very poor. It was something that was not even in my radar. I didn't know what golf was. I didn't know how to play it. I didn't even know it was a thing. As a matter of fact, I used to walk by a golf course when I was in high school every day, Muni Golf Course in Las Vegas. And never did I think, oh, well, that's kind of cool. I never stopped to admire it or to look at it. I just walked by it. And it's just really funny that it never clicked even back then. I didn't start taking lessons until I was 30. And that's when I picked it up at the age of 30 years old.
I have to say, as a former junior golfer, I say that if I had to learn golf as an adult, I would absolutely never do it because it is one of the hardest, most frustrating sports to learn from scratch. But you did it. You were able to do this at age 30. What are the tricks to your success? Because I'm sure there's people that out there that have been playing for decades and still can't break 100. How did you do it?
With golf, I've realized that it takes practice, dedication, and most amateurs want to get better, but they do not want to put in the time to practice, or they do not know how to practice as well. I think with social media, it's made it a lot easier to be able to look at an instructional video on YouTube and be able to learn from that. But even then, I don't think a lot of amateurs want to put in the time. And I can never understand how a golfer gets frustrated on the golf course when he's never put in the time to practice. So you can't become good at something if you don't practice. The way I look at it is if the professionals are practicing, then what makes me think I'm better than them?
That is true. So what kind of practicing do you do? You know, a lot of us just get a bucket, go hit it. Like what differentiates the kind of practice that you do versus the kind of practice that, you know, a random mediocre amateur golfer like me does?
Well, I think that a lot of amateurs like myself, they go to the range and they just hit a bucket of balls and they expect to see something. I practice with a purpose. I know what my swing needs. I know what improvements I need to work on. And so based on that, I work on drills the entire time I'm on the range. I either have a training aid or a drill that I'm doing, and then I hit maybe 5 to 10 real golf shots.
That is very different. That is very different for what most of us are doing. I know that your life has been very difficult, and now you're at a point where you get to live this amazing life that seemed like a dream when you were a child. But not everything is rainbows and butterflies. You have a condition that you've developed that keeps you from achieving 69, among many other things. Why don't you tell us more about this condition?
Yes, I developed this condition about 2 years after playing golf. I was getting a lot of pelvic pain, and after being misdiagnosed twice, I finally get a real diagnosis. It turns out I have osteitis pubis, which is an inflammation of the pubic symphysis, which means that I have very little cartilage separating my pubic bones, and so my bones rub against each other, causing extreme pain. So something so simple like walking can be very painful for me. So I have to limit the amount of walking that I do because of my condition, along with the amount of time on the range, along with the amount of time I spend at the gym. I have to limit all those things.
How does it feel to be stopped by your body when you are so determined and so in love with the sport? It has to be a very frustrating feeling. And how do you deal with it?
It's a very difficult thing for me because I am very active. I love to be active. I love movement. I love walking. I love running. And it's very limiting. And it's depressing because there are times when I feel like being active and I cannot because I'm in pain. And so I just have to be in bed, lay in a heat pad, and hope it goes away soon or by the next day. And there are times when I've had tournaments and I've woken up and I'm in extreme pain. And there's nothing I can do about it except take an Advil and hope that somehow it doesn't get worse than that.
Is there a cure for this condition? Are you treating it in any way?
I treat it every day with physical therapy. I do my own physical therapy. I also have a physical therapist that I go to at least once a week or once a month. I'm supposed to have about 3 therapy sessions 3 times a week, but it gets very expensive. So I do a lot of things to my body to make sure that I'm able to have the ability to move the next day. So it's become very challenging. It's become a lot of work. It takes a lot of my time, but it's the way of life now for me.
What about a medical treatment? Obviously, you are a very disciplined person. I have no doubt that you try your best every single day to do everything you can to feel better. But is there a cure? Is there a pill? Is there an injection? Is there something you can do?
There are things that I can do. Unfortunately, I have not found a cure for my condition. I think mine is worse than others. So osteitis pubis is very common among athletes. Also the fact that I've had 2 children. Levels vary per person. So some can be good and they can take 3 months off and it gets better right away. I unfortunately have been dealing with this for close to 8 years.
So right here on the screen, we're looking at an x-ray of mommy's pubic bone. As you can see, there's absolutely no cartilage left. And on the other side is a picture of my pubic bone. Lots of padding there. That's what a healthy pubic bone should look like. Have you ever thought about getting surgery? What can you do?
I have thought about getting surgery. I went to go see a surgeon in Stanford, and he said that he could fuse the muscle together, which may or may not alleviate the pain. The problem was that I had to be in a wheelchair for 3 months and then learn how to walk. He said my mobility or my movement would not be the same. So of course, being a golfer, I do not want to limit the amount or my range of motion.
Yeah, I mean, if you have to relearn how to walk, you probably have to relearn how to swing, and that sounds like a lot of work. No doubt in my mind that you could do it because you're the most disciplined person I know when it comes to the sport, but that sounds like it's not worth the risk.
Definitely not worth the risk. It's horrible being in pain. It's mostly horrible that I do not know what my pain or pain of level is going to be each day. Sometimes it's different. It's not always in the same area. Sometimes it's my hips, my back, my obliques. my inner thighs, my pubic bone, pubic area. So, and sometimes it's all of it. And there are times when I can barely take a step. Most people won't see me crying, but there are moments that I've actually cried because of the amount of pain that I'm in.
The amount of pain has to be excruciating, but also the psychological repercussions of not being able to do what you love, probably even worse.
Even worse, absolutely, because I think that if I didn't have this condition, and because I love competing, I would definitely be involved in more tournaments, USGA tournaments, maybe even trying to go on the senior tour and maybe be a +3 handicap by now. But now my goal, because of this condition and because of the restrictions that I have, I feel like I've reached my goal as an amateur of being club champion, breaking 72, being a scratch golfer. And now my goal is just to encourage other people, especially women, to get into golf even later on in life. And I feel that if I can do it, so can they.
You and I have had the opportunity to travel the world together playing golf. You much better than me. But I've seen firsthand all the things that you have to do to maintain your condition under control. It is an insane amount of work, and it is something that has to require so much patience and so much self-compassion, and sometimes I just don't even know how you do it. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So in order for me to be able to travel and play golf and not be in pain, I have to pack a lot of things with me to help with my physical therapy. I travel with a heating pad, with a massage gun, with KT tape, ointments, I mean, you name it.
By the way, mommy's suitcase is always about 70 pounds overweight. She's probably gonna blame it on that, but I'm just gonna say it's probably all the other accessories, because look at this girl. I mean, she looks unbelievable. Unbelievable, but yes.
Yes, so every day I do therapy on my body. I know what works for me. I know what kind of therapy my physical therapist does. So those are the things that I have you do on my body and help me out.
I have to say, you're also very good at knowing what to do. You're really good at, like, you're very in tune with your body. You know exactly what body part needs help on a particular day versus the other day, because as you said, it's always different. You just know yourself.
Yes, yes. And because I've been doing therapy for 6-7 years, I know what my therapist works on. I know what is hurting and what's causing it and how to fix it. And sometimes he needs another set of hands, which is where you come in sometimes. But it's challenging to be able to travel with that amount of things, and also to have to do that amount of therapy every day, including hot baths and Epsom salt. And so I have to make sure that I have a bath. I hated baths before, now I have to love them. So, you know, it's a way of life now.
Yeah, so obviously this condition is not something that you can escape. But let's talk about the weaknesses that you have today that could get in the way of you reaching 69, both mental, game-wise. Tell us about the things that are kind of like sitting heavy on your head at the moment.
I could be playing my best golf, but also my body could be not feeling well. And so it really all depends on how my body feels. And if it doesn't feel great, then most likely I won't play well that day. But overall, I know that in order to be able to break 70, my short game has to be dialed in. And so for most amateurs that don't realize it, the short game is very important. You have to be able to putt, chip, and hit those approach shots really close in order to be able to break 70.
So let's talk about milestones. You started playing 10 years ago. By the way, this beautiful young lady is only 40 years old. It is unbelievable. A mother of 2 beautiful teenagers and just a role model to women everywhere. But she's only 40 years old. You started 10 years ago. When did you break 100?
After 2 years of playing golf.
What about 90?
3 years.
What about 80?
4 years.
And here we are, my friends. Today, in this trip, and for the rest of the year, Mommy is going to try to break 70 and finally get her 69. Not only you've been able to break every golf milestone available to golfers, except for 70, which we're on our way to do,
Yes.
but you're also a club champion in how many clubs?
I'm a club champion at 3 country clubs. I am only a member at 1 now, Red Rock Country Club. I'm the 3-time club champion there and reigning club champ. I'm also the 4-time club champ at Sherwood Country Club in Thousand Oaks and the 3-time club champ at Southern Highlands.
That is very impressive. I mean, that has to be extremely hard because the level of women's golf in some of these clubs is unbelievable.
There are some women that play very, very good golf.
So, which has been the hardest match that you've had to play to defend the club championship, and what was going through your head to make this happen?
At Red Rock Country Club, actually, my really good friend Kim Broughton became a member there, and she took the club championship away from me.
Uh-oh. Watch out, Kim.
And I love the level of competition because I know she's better than me. She's also more experienced than I am. But I tell her each time that we go in and compete that no one can out-practice me. And so she may have more experience, but I know that one day it's golf. To me, it's golf. It doesn't matter how good you are. Golf will punish you on certain holes. And I've been very close. And unfortunately, I was able to beat her because she moved away.
Whatever works. We're not judging here. You got your club championship back. Thank you so much for moving back to wherever you came from, Kim. So she's been your fiercest competitor.
She
so
has
far.
been my fiercest competitor. The last few years that I've tried to compete against her, there's always been a personal problem in my life or some sort of injury. The second year I tried to compete with her, I got really close. We both tied for 72 going into the next day. And I believe she shot like a 70 and I was like 77.
Wow.
She just played good golf, you know, and it's expected. It's expected for her to play good golf. And so I love competing against people that are better than me because it makes me focus more. It makes me practice harder. And it just fuels my need for competition.
And you know, this is actually the perfect example of a situation where you are competing with outside factors, but at the end of the day, the limiting factor is within you.
Yes.
And you have to fight it every
I
day,
have to fight it.
physically and mentally. And that
Yes.
is very motivating and inspirational, Mommy.
Thank you. I've had competitions where I've had to walk and I have a handicap. It's expired right now, but I have a handicap. I don't use it and I regret not using it because usually on the back nine I'm on the ground trying to stretch, trying to get my muscles to move, to not lock up, and it's just horrible. But it is life. I feel like someone that's been a very good story to follow and inspire is Ben Hogan's story, where he played golf in pain and he walked and he was a professional golfer and he still did it and competed at the highest level. And I take a lot from his story of just grit and determination, and that's what I want, is for people to see that the amount of determination and grit that I have.
I think it is very clear to see that. From 30 to 40 years old, from 36 handicap to a scratch golfer, to somebody who is trying to break the milestone of 70 golf strokes in a round. That is just not normal. Your determination, your hard work, your character, your competitiveness have all gathered together to bring us here right now. And I think that is really special. As your friend and somebody who's played golf with you and sees the amount of work that you put in, I truly believe that if this condition wasn't a thing, you could have played professionally. And there's no doubt in my mind you could have done that. But now that you have accepted that this might not be a possibility for you, at least yet, maybe in the senior tour one day, how do you want to make a living out of this? How do you want to turn your passion into your job?
This hobby has become my career and has become a way of living for me. I now draw inspiration from helping others get into the sport, and my goal is just to teach others and become a coach and give them the advice and tips and drills that have helped me to become a better golfer, and the way I've learned on my own on how to reach those goals faster or sooner rather than later. And so I want to make golf easy for people, easy to learn, easy to get on the golf course, and I want to give easy tips. I want to give them and turn something that's difficult to learn and make it just simple and easy.
Because golf is an extremely difficult sport. not only to learn, but it's also very intimidating for new people to start. And you're trying to make this a more accessible, just sharing information that will encourage other women to play. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
This is a special moment. I'm not sure if you realize how special and inspiring your story is, Mami, but we are all here cheering for you. Whether you make it or not, in my mind, there's no doubt that you will make it. If it's not this year, it'll be next year or the next year. Either way, your story is inspirational. We all love you. We love your swing. We love your attitude. We love your spicy Mexican personality. And we want to see you get that. I want you to know that as your friend, I've never met anybody that loves the sport as much as you do. I am inspired by you, and I will be here till the end of this journey. We will get there, and we wish you luck.
Thank you, Carolina. Really appreciate it. And
Now
thank
let's
you
go
to
get
everyone.
that. Let's go get that 69.
Let's go get it.